Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is the 49 Days of CBC, and we have a special person here today, Miss Belinda Wk. And I just wanted to take a minute and thank you for all your time that you put into Carolina Bible Camp, and just spending a few minutes with you before this interview. I imagine there's going to be some good stories during this interview, just with your family history with Carolina Bible Camp. Belinda, I just got to ask you, when you heard that Carolina Bible Camp was not going to be happening this summer, how did that hit you?
Wow, it kind of hit me like a block of ice. Actually, it was like I felt like I was in the ice challenge. Somebody just dumped a bucket of ice water over me, and my heart just kind of sank. Because Bible camp. See, okay, we're gonna try not to get emotional. Yeah, it's been a part of my family for a very long time.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. You've got sounds like a long history with Carolina Bible Camp, and I'd just like for you, if you can, take a few minutes and just kind of share your parents' involvement and then your involvement when you got back into Carolina Bible Camp.
Well, we first started, we were at Camp Kanata. It was the first year that we were at Camp Kanata, and I was 12 years old. That was my first year at camp. And my dad, HR had gotten a hold of my dad because they needed a kitchen director. And so my dad back then, the kitchen director was in charge of the workers, the menus and everything. And so come the month or two before camp, our dining room table was covered in menus, and he had to rent a freezer and another cooler to go in the kitchen at Camp Kanata because they didn't have enough that would work. So he did it, and he took off 3 weeks from work. He was a mechanic, and I didn't realize until years later, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. But he would take 3 weeks off of camp, and him and my mother both would go up to Bible camp and stay for 3 weeks full time. Wilson and Lil Burton were the head counselors. I have pictures of them from my dad's camera of them standing out on the porch of Camp Kanata checking people in.
All right.
And that was the first year. That was also, of course, everybody knows Melinda and Jared Markman. Melinda was my first ever counselor.
All right.
So it was Melinda Campbell and Melinda Kessler, and we called them Campbell and Kessler.
All right.
So Melinda used to, because most of our hair was long, and so she would French braid our hair.
Yeah.
At a very young age. So my dad would take off, and like years later, I asked him one time when I came back in at 90, it was in 19, I had got having children and everything, and we moved around a little bit, and my first husband was in the Marine Corps, and so then my youngest daughter was born in 92, so I think she was probably about 2 when we started coming back.
All right.
And I remember we would stay down in the nurse's cabin underneath.
Right.
Because we tried sleeping in the cabin, and yet we were getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get the trucks, and it was just like, oh my goodness. The kids wouldn't be quiet. in and out. And so we switched and went to the nurse's cabin underneath, and we had that whole back room back there, and me and Diane Gorman and Sean Gorman was just a little fella with my girls. And so that was some of the good days back in there. And so yeah, I started coming back in 92. No, 94. I think it was 94. Came back for a while, and then my daughter, my dad couldn't physically be involved anymore due to his health.
Right.
But my mom would come as a counselor.
Yes.
And so, she was, in fact, I have a picture I showed to Randall the other day, a picture of her and Wilson standing together talking. But, I've made lifelong friends from Bible camp. Some of them, they're just, it's amazing that you develop these friendships and you can go years and not see them. And then you hook back up with them at camp and it's like, oh my goodness, and you go and you get big hugs and it's like, how have you been? And it's like you never left off.
So true. Well, when you look back over the years and, you talked about your parents, go ahead and tell, some people might not know who your parents are. So if you want to just tell us.
Okay. My dad was Mervyn Nichols and my mom was Fern Nichols. My dad was a minister for a long time, and we lived down in Pungo, North Carolina. And that's why I enjoy going fifth week, is because a lot of the kids that I grew up with, their kids and grandkids come now.
All right. That's good.
So it's pretty cool to hook back up with them.
Well, it's just like you said a second ago about how, you can go years without seeing somebody and be there at camp, and it's just the memories come back, the fellowship comes back, and that's the blessing of Carolina Bible Camp. And,
it definitely is. And I remember years later when I would have to take off of work because I wanted to do this with my kids and stuff. And, and I asked my dad one time, I said, Dad, how did you manage? I mean, he didn't have, like insurance coverage and all that stuff back then. And I said, how did you manage to take off 3 weeks of work, and still support? And he looked at me and he said something that stuck with me for my life. And he said, I don't know if it's exact words, but he said, I chose to give 3 weeks to work for the Lord. He said, and I had faith. I knew that the Lord was going to provide. And he said, he always did. And my dad worked on, he was what they called a master mechanic. And he said that, they would always, he worked on big yachts down in Belhaven, North Carolina. And he said there was always a yacht, some big job that would come up right before camp that would be the financial source that he needed to take us through camp. Yeah. And, and I always remember that. And I'm like, okay, so I've always lived with that, if doing the Lord's work. And no matter whether it's Bible camp or whichever, when you're doing the Lord's work, God's going to take care of you and he's going to provide.
That's powerful. I would have liked to have met him before, just working on boats and everything. I bet he
was pretty awesome. He helped a lot of people out behind closed doors that nobody knew about. And he was for preaching the gospel because that's what he was led to do. And
he didn't want the recognition or anything, did he? He just wanted to do the job.
That's why I say he helped a lot of kids go to Bible camp. He helped my kids go to Bible camp because, we were raising 3 kids and it was hard for me to take off of work and plus have 3 kids to go to camp. And, somehow they'd always slip some kind of money into the canteen down there, and or he'd fill my gas tank up, or, something to go to camp. So, my mom and dad were pretty, they were awesome examples of Christians, and was very blessed with them, and very blessed that they instilled in me the opportunity to reach out and work with others like at Carolina Bible Camp.
Cool. Now, when you think about all the years that you've been a part of Carolina Bible Camp, is there a memory that stands out to you that you want to share with us?
Oh, wow. Which memory? Oh, my goodness. Well, you know, it's funny because when I guess it would have been somewhere around, probably around 96 or 98. Have a grandchild come in. Out, please. Out, please. Out, please. I will deal with it. Sorry. Out. Okay. I asked him, give me 30 minutes, okay?
That's all right. That's all right.
So one year, and I have the picture, and I really need to get it and post it on there, because one year I was in the kitchen, and we took and put bowls of pudding, chocolate pudding, and Cool Whip, and I had the table set up, and I had the kids got to choose who they wanted on the line, and they had to try to eat the Cool Whip and the pudding and everything out of the bowl with no hands, and they were blindfolded. And it was so funny because, you know, both Eddie and I both lost our first spouses. Debbie and Eddie were very big into Bible camp, and I was there with my family, my kids, and I was very good friends with Debbie too. Eddie and I really didn't know a whole lot about each other, but I mean, we knew each other. And so Eddie was on this panel on the table. So years afterwards, and then we re-met, and God brought us together, and I see this picture we're going through, and here I am standing right behind Eddie. And he's, you know, blindfolded and eating, but you can clearly, oh no, he's not blindfolded then. And you can clearly see it's him. And I'm standing right there behind him. I'm going, Lord, you really have a sense of humor. So, oh dear.
All right, here we are with Miss Belinda. We were talking about some of the memories that you had, and you were talking about how God put you in the perfect spot there with standing behind Mr. Eddie as you were doing a what was it, a whipped cream pudding challenge.
Yep, hold up. I'm busy having grandchildren, but that's okay.
Right. Well, here we go.
So yeah. So yeah, it was kind of different when, you know, I had no idea 20 years ago that when our kids were being raised in camp together, and you know, I was friends with Debbie, and she was just such a special person. And I'd be in the kitchen, and she'd come and get coffee in the morning, and the year, the last year that I saw her, it was the following year that she was the following August that she was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
I had lost my husband in May, and I went to camp in July trying to keep things normal. Mm-hmm. That's the last, and then I saw Debbie, and then in August, that's when she was diagnosed with the cancer.
Oh, wow.
So, and then I didn't go back because my boss kept taking his vacation the week of the 4th of July. So I wasn't able to go. So then, when I got, and God brought Eddie, I prayed for Eddie. And one of my dear friends from Winterville Church of Christ, I had gotten into the Winterville Church of Christ, and God just works I can look back and I see through camp, I see through, you know, my entire life, and I see where God was just putting things in place, you know, that had to happen to bring me to where I am now. And my dream was always to live up in Moxville, close to Bible camp, so that I didn't have to travel 6 hours away, and that I could be involved in the different weeks and go out, you know, because I always see people come out that live local and they come out for worship service and stuff. It's like, man, I would love to do that, you know, and here I am 3 minutes from the camp.
Awesome.
You know, and I have just awesome husband, awesome family. You know, camp is just a great place that, you know, new beginnings start even when you don't realize it.
Yeah, you're so right there. And you think about some situations you're in, you don't understand why you're in those situations, but as time goes on, you realize that that was probably the best thing for you. And it led you into where you're at now. And we don't know how we get there sometimes, but
I know. I still look back on it, and, you know, and I think, wow, all that pain, and for both of us, you know, that we had to go through. And then, you know, God knew that I wanted somebody, or God knew that I needed somebody, wanted somebody, or he wanted him for me, that was grounded in faith, you know, and that someone that would pick me up and carry me, you know, for a while. And so I'm very blessed beyond measure, with, you know, I've got 2 sons. We have 6 grandchildren now, 5 granddaughters, 1 grandson. And we just are very blessed as a family, and love Carolina Bible Camp, and the big part of our lives.
Well, let me, as we're kind of drawing to a close on this interview, I'd like to ask you, you know, there's been people in your life through Carolina Bible Camp over the years, staff and even campers, that probably have left an impression on you, lifelong impression on you. Is there somebody you want to share with us? It can be more than one person, but is there somebody that stands out in your mind that really impacted your life?
Well, let me see. H.R. Butler, Ed Hill, C.R. Franks, Vivian Bohannon, my mom and my dad, Mervyn and Fern Nichols, Wilson and Lil Burton, and there was a really sweet lady from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and her name was Elaine Raper. I don't know if y'all know her, but she worked in the kitchen. Do you know her?
Yeah, she used to take a bus ride to camp.
She worked with my mom and dad starting from in the kitchen. I don't know what year. I think it was at Canada. But yeah, she was really dear sweet lady and a hard worker. Oh my goodness, I could just go on and on. But there was, and I cannot remember what his name was. Oh, Howard Winters. But I always used to get kicked. We had singing class with Ed Hill, and he'd always tickled me with his pitch pipe. I mean, he always had that pitch pipe. And
he said he had a big old smile.
He did. And you know, Wilson and Lil were always there. Wilson was just it was just like he was a, how do I say it? He was like the CBC Energizer Bunny.
Oh, wow.
You know, he just kept on going. And you could be walking around camp, and then the next thing you know, you turn around and there's Wilson.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like, where'd you come from? But you know, he in his younger days, when we were growing up in camp, and you know, him and Lil both, they really were great examples of just the time donation. I mean, all of them were. And I just look back to that era of time when I was young, and I see Carolina Bible Camp being what it is today because of their selflessness, and it went way beyond the 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of camp, you know. And then Randall also. And then, you know, there's, oh my goodness, there's so many. I can't even. Charlie Belch, he was awesome. You know, even you, Andy. I mean, it's like, you know, like I say, we don't work together, but you know, we know each other enough. And you know, everybody likes the fact that I used to have my grits and my oatmeal. And I remember you standing on the porch one time a few years back. You're like, grits and oatmeal, you and Kirk Sands. And you're like, I'm gonna have to get you to come make us grits and oatmeal. But yeah, there's just so many that I can't even, you know. And then there's the ones today. So they give so much of their time, and they're so selfless with it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work in the kitchen. It's a lot of work, you know, being directors. They say, I remember when my dad was, there wasn't a pre-made menu. My dad made the menus. He had these, he was an architecture too, and he had all these squares drawn out and menus written down, you know. And, you know, and then there was H.R. Butler would get the letters, the applications, and then they would say kitchen worker on them. Then HR would send all the ones that wanted to be kitchen workers. He put them in envelopes. It was like every day, it's from HR, it's from HR. We knew there was applications for kitchen workers coming in. So my dad would position them and make sure that we could put them all in and stuff. So, you know, I remember his dedication to that. And I miss him because he was such a dedicated man. And even when he couldn't go to Bible camp anymore, he drove 6 hours to baptize my youngest daughter.
Awesome.
At Bible camp. So, and he always would send money, donations. He always made sure that if a child wanted to go to camp, they would go to camp.
Well, this next question is going to be, well, I could probably sum it up for you, and that's heart. That's Carolina Bible Camp. But put it in your words. What's the one word you could sum up Carolina Bible Camp with?
Home, away from home. My home away from home. It has been for years.
Belinda, it's been wonderful.
Danger. Don't blame me.
Kids, grandkids, can y'all please go?
Well, it's been a true honor for me to spend these few minutes with you, and thank you for sharing your heart. I know how much Carolina Bible Camp means to you and to your family, and you and Eddie bring a lot to it. And I just want to thank you and continue to pour your heart out for these kids. I know that's why you do it. You love the place, you love the people, Just remember this is the 49 days of CBC, and we're just kind of bringing back the stories that we have to share with people about why we love this place, why we work so hard to share our faith with all these kids that sometimes we don't even know. And you and Eddie are a true blessing to Carolina Bible Camp. Thank you so much for your continued work, and look forward to many years more that we can serve together.
Well, thank you, Andy. I appreciate you doing this. I know this is time, there again, selfless time out of your time that you've dedicated to do this, and it means a lot. And I know that there's so many people that are such the heart of camp, you know, and I just can't put it in words how much camp means to me. It was a blessing to me when I was young, and made so many friends. And in fact, one of my best friends, who was LaDonna Edwards, you know, and they called us, you know, Mutt and Jeff, because she's so short and I'm so tall. But, you know, we worked in the kitchen together, and we love each other. And, you know, we've both lost our first husbands, and we've been through a lot together, but we've been through, we've shared so much at camp, and so many memories. And it was so cool to be able to, we started camping together at 12 years old, and then lost touch, and then come back together at camp when I started coming back. So it was really cool. So, you know, if there was any word that I could say to these kids that are missing the camp experience, don't give up. You know, God has a reason for everything. There is a reason. And I believe that we're all going to be stronger because of this year. Without it, and maybe camp will be more appreciated,
yes,
than taken for granted for.
Joy's trying to bite me. Joy's trying to tell
So
I'm not trying to bite you.
Well, we love you, my friend, and keep up the good work. Okay?
I love you too so much. Thank you again. We look forward to seeing you
All right.
soon.
Okay, take care of yourself.